There are gods we can talk to.
So what is the plan for making contact with Kilbearth?
I go in and just announce myself and just say hi, I'm home.
Are you bringing 74 years worth of back tribute?
Well, gold is worthless now, so
Yes.
What, just tell them all the tribute you'd collected was gold?
if,
Do dragons still have bizarre hoarding instincts for gold?
These are questions you do not know the answer to. Yeah.
Because that's like a compulsion.
Neither
thing.
does Brick Road.
Well, most of the dragons in the campaign are either dead or controlled by the bad guy at the moment. So,
Yeah.
Birdie, are you going alone into Kilbearth's realm for the first time in
very
decades?
much that's no. Very
Mhm.
much no. If they try to make me go alone, I will not go.
No,
No,
I'll go with you.
Raazu would be with you.
Okay. It's become clear, using the secret tunnels for the first time in decades, nobody stepped foot here in a very, very long time. And when you find the chamber where Kilbearth, where his hoard was, he's still laying in much the same position as when you last saw him. But his body has not decayed. It's not breathing, and it's not moving. But it still is giving off warmth.
Hibernation of some kind?
Birdie will go, Lord Kilberth?
And there's no response.
Maybe they get nutrients from the gold. Maybe we should have brought some gold.
Adrex shoves Birdie a little bit and goes, poke him.
Birdie walks forward and goes to Kilberth's head.
Okay? And his head is resting... it's actually been thrown aside because it was resting on a pile of coin and gems, and whoever plundered his cave managed to move his head over to the side, so it's kind of twisted so that his neck is resting on the ground and his chin is presented towards you as you walk up to him. His eye is facing away.
Are they open or closed?
Closed.
Birdie very gently places his hand on the snout.
On the snout.
Yes.
And you still feel warmth there. The body still is giving off some amount of heat. And the snout is large enough that you could almost crawl inside of it. Being an ancient black dragon.
Hmm.
The dragon might be in some kind of hibernation. I hadn't thought of that.
What do we do? Birdie, you're the dragon expert.
Birdie slowly looks and stares at Wendy.
What?
Shakes his head and then
Does it look like perhaps that someone had taken a part of this dragon's hoard? Is that probably why his head got shoved aside?
Yeah, it's exactly what it looks like. I mean, this is the story that Birdie has told you guys, is that Kilbearth was defeated by some of his enemies and was left for dead. Birdie's one of the few that knows that Kilbearth isn't all the way dead. But yeah, its hoard has been mostly plundered.
It's still there's still some treasure here.
Scattered remnants, but nothing of actual major value.
Okay, so and let me guess, not a fleck of silver, huh?
Here and there, a couple of coins, maybe.
Raazu walks over to one of the silver coins, picks it up, flips it,
Mm-hmm.
catches it in her hand,
Yep.
looks at the dragon. This is
And-
mine now.
Okay. You can add 1 silver coin to your character sheet.
That's actually a lot.
You're now
What's it
by
worth
far
now?
the richest person. Silver in this world would be more valuable than platinum now. I mean, I don't think exchange rates are actually going to come into practice, but let's just say like 100 copper to a platinum and 10 platinum to a silver, if it ever comes up.
Yeah, no, Raazu was doing that just mainly to provoke the dragon, I think.
Well, if taking whatever was under the dragon's head didn't wake it up, flipping a coin in the air probably won't.
What is Birdie asks for Adrex's help, and then I'm looking for any more obvious wounds.
Very obvious wounds. I mean, they're no longer seeping or bleeding, but great gashes in the thing's scale and tissue. Places where the scales have been blown apart or cracked or torn off. You can see where its wings have been torn in places, probably with heavy ballista or arrow fire.
I don't think we're going to get anything from this dragon.
One thought, Birdie. Try offering it something that's magical. That's this dragon's thing, right? That's why you've always been interested in magic?
No, it's just magic stuff is generally easier to carry than gold and silver.
That makes sense.
I mean, that's what it amounts to.
So I can have all your magic stuff then?
Birdie is clutching his pack now and
Okay,
stepping
good.
away
Still
from
Birdie.
I'm not sure what we can offer here because we kind of used everything. We do have that magic ring that Raazu's wearing that we never identified. Is she attuned to?
64 years later.
Can you refresh my memory on that a little bit?
We don't know what it does. I just put it on you because I wanted to see if bad stuff would happen.
That's
Yeah,
right.
nothing
now
did.
I remember.
Nothing bad happened. So what's next?
Raazu plucks the ring off of her finger, looks at it. What do you think? Raazu hands it to Birdie.
Birdie holds it up to the underneath the dragon's, I guess, nostrils.
Okay. And you're not feeling like breath coming in or out of the nostrils. There is just this body warmth kind of emanating from it. Definitely not the same warmth as when you were in the presence of Qiang Zhao or Breniar when you were fighting him. But there's some spark somewhere inside this dragon that's not dead.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't rouse to holding the ring up to it.
Lord
I don't think
Kilberth,
we're gonna.
Lord
Go
Kilberth,
ahead.
please wake up. We found out who pillaged your hoard and why.
And there's no response.
We're not
And-
gonna get anything from him.
Not for nothing, but you're starting to feel kind of dumb for being terrified of this dead-ass dragon for so long.
Yeah.
Adrex shouts as loudly as he can, "Hey, dragon, wake up!"
And it takes 30 or 40 seconds for the last remnants of Adrex's rude shout to echo into silence.
All right, no, this is pointless.
The Windukes.
Hopefully they're not napping too.
I have a thought on the way. I'll ask Captain Eyes and Student 9 what the situation is with the remaining Yuan-ti in the north.
So we're abandoning Keelbeer. This is a dud.
Yeah.
As you guys turn to leave, there's a loud and enormous crash in the center of the room that makes all of you jump. And when you turn back, you see that the black dragon's claw, has raised in the air and crashed down into the stone and earth on all sides of Birdie. Birdie, standing here in the middle of this, the claws crack and tear the earth near your feet, and its grip closes around you. And you're like, oh, this is why I've been scared of this dead-ass dragon for all these years.
Birdie has a resigned look on his way, like, yes, this is how I knew it would end all along.
Raazu turns to face the dragon, draws her weapon.
Yeah, Red's already trying to get underneath that claw too with a dagger out.
Birdie says, no, it's
And-
fine.
The claw
It's fine.
grips Birdie and lifts him off the ground. And it's the only part of this dragon that's moving. The wings still lay limp and broken. The head hasn't lifted. But this claw lifts Birdie a good 5 or 6 feet off the ground. And then begins shaking violently, rattling him around like a... ringing his bell. And Birdie, you become aware of the dragon's presence in your mind. And it's not communicating in words, more like it's making you feel what it's feeling, like an empathetic communication. And what he's essentially asking you is, did you bring him treasure, or should he eat you?
64 years is gold to come back to this.
Says the rivers outside are just pure gold.
That's
And
partly Birdie's fault, so...
Birdie did it all for this one moment.
Yeah.
You feel intense betrayal that you realize this is what Keelbirth must feel in reference to you. You weren't there to protect him from his enemies. You didn't stick around to see whether his hoard could be rebuilt. You buggered off into the world. And this betrayal that you realize he's feeling as the claws close around you to the point where it's starting to squeeze you a little bit.
Birdie goes, no, you asked me to go.
And the
he's
claw
like-
stops.
Like you don't remember? Like you asked me to go, and I went out, and I found things out, and I uncovered secrets. I have secrets, and
And you feel, as you're thinking about some of these secrets, you're like putting together in your head how you're going to explain this quickly enough that you can get it all out before he finishes crushing you. And you feel these secrets seep out of your mind into the dragons as he's taking them from you. And you feel the claw begin to relax.
whew, oh boy.
Eventually it opens up completely. So you're standing in the, like, trying to balance your weight on the thing's open paw with its vicious claws all around you.
And Birdie just starts explaining like what's going on, what they found out about how Hand Axe, who is very dead, is the one that betrayed him and stole the majority of his thing in service of Mammon. And we attacked Mammon and were, turned to gold. And now we are trying to. Things have gotten really bad.
And as you're forming these sentences, your thoughts begin to trail off. And again, the dragon's mind pushes into yours, and it starts to form a command. It simply says, show me the tentacles. The trick with the tentacles. Show me that you have become this powerful wizard.
Love the tentacles.
like
I've seen this hentai.
Did the rest of us hear that, or is that only Birdie?
Just Birdie. No, the rest
Okay.
of the rest of you, this dragon remains completely inert, except its forearm and its claw.
where do you want the tentacles? Like
Oh, no.
it's a very big space. I don't want to damage anything.
There's lots of open space in here. You could harmlessly create tentacles in this room.
Okay, well I'll harmlessly create tentacles off in the corner, and I won't drop them on Raazu.
Okay.
This is what she is worried about.
Boring.
And you create these things, and no sooner than you do does the claw flip upside down, and you feel yourself in free fall for a second. But one of the claws swoops down and pierces through the back of your shirt at your neck, so you're just dangling there. And it whips you over, so you're hanging over your own tentacles in the ground. And you get this intense sensation that it would give this dragon's mind no greater satisfaction than to drop you.
Birdie dismisses the tentacles.
And no sooner do you dismiss the tentacles that you feel yourself hit the ground, and a large crash as the claw falls limp next to you. And you feel the dragon's mind retreat from you, as though unable to maintain its concentration much longer.
Is there anything we can do to help you?
And there's no response to that.
Should I cast tentacles on the dragon? I don't know.
No.
No, don't do that.
Okay, well. Birdie will shake his head and stand up, and he'll turn around to leave.
When there's motion, as the dragon's body begins to turn and move, and its head rights itself, and one of its great eyes opens, and it's glassy and milky. But you see its pupils focus inside of it.
Birdie raises both hands and goes, "Huzzah!" And then he goes, "Oh crap!"
And the dragon begins to speak with its hoarse, terrible voice that's very weak and low at first, but seems to find its bearing after a few moments. And it's speaking in the draconic tongue. And it tells you that, Birdie, that you have become powerful in the old magics indeed.
Adrex translates for everyone.
I think everyone
Probably
actually
knows
speaks
Draconic.
Draconic, except maybe Wendy.
Oh.
Who
Wendy
speaks
doesn't
everything.
understand.
Draconic.
Wendy-
Wendy understands all spoken languages.
Monks are bullshit.
Don't blame me.
Birdie,
Blame D&D.
Keelbeer says that as his last surviving general, that you have brought him these fine underlings. He places you in charge of exacting his revenge against Handax's master. And says that he will begin bending his will to healing his body so that he may join this fight. And once again, you and he will grow his hoard large, and you will see gold, mountains of it, the likes of which you've never seen before his work is done.
Sure. There's a lot of gold outside, though. Like there's so much gold that it's worthless.
And the dragon makes a coughing question mark sound, like it's trying to roar, but all of its vocal passages are not yet cleared out of the cobwebs. And then with his voice again, he speaks and tells you simply to go and begin this labor.
Birdie gives a weak thumbs up and does an about face and very quickly scurries out.
And as you guys are leaving, the dragon is taking great pains and efforts getting up onto its feet and flexing its muscles for the first time in decades.
Once we've left Keelbeer's domain, Raazu looks to Birdie and says, "I am not fucking calling you General."
Shut up, underling.
I'll call you General.
All right, so put a little check mark next to Keelbeard.
I mean, we're on a ship. Wouldn't it be more like an admiral?
But
No,
Captain
we're
Ice
gonna
is the
be
one that's
we're
in
gonna be
charge.
yeah, we're gonna be fighting on the ground.
Birdie, you're pretty sure that you just were not eaten.
Yeah. Like all of Birdie's life goals have just been met. It's all downhill from here.
That's it. He's like, you know what? I'm retiring. You guys send me
Packing it in.
a letter when you deal with Mammon or whatever. I'm gonna go get a farm somewhere.
I'll go-
One of them tomatoes.
I'll go get a farm with that guy that.
It's already dead.
No, he's on the farm. Remember?
So the Windukes then?
We can be
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Captain Eyes and Student Nines what happened to all the Yuan-ti in the area between here and there.
Many were destroyed, especially the ones at the base here.
Yeah. I mean, we'd already done a pretty good number on that city ourselves.
That
so.
city was tearing itself apart by the time you left. Some of the more powerful ones, some of the alchemists, the higher castes, the more hardy warriors, were just folded into Mammon's armies.
Mm-hmm.
The Yuan-ti are a very proud and exclusive people, so where you're from, down here, in kind of the same areas down here in the swamps.
It's, over here.
Oh, okay. Well, by the time that they've actually reached this far down, a lot of them, some of them kind of doubled down on their position and just became unfindable. You have come to learn that the Underdark is more or less untouched, so you think a lot of them may have escaped even further into the earth. Others would have escaped further south and found other marshlands to settle in. A few of them are stationed in and around what used to be Fort Salus in this now settled area with the broken wall. There were Yuan-ti on both sides of that battle.
All right. Well, When we're on the way to speak to the Wind Dukes, I think I know what we have to do. We
Okay.
have to stop at the Fen of Fangs. I have to find some of the old mystical incense, and I have to try and talk to this god that got this whole thing started.
Right.
I mean, that sounds fair.
Red.
Everyone gets a shot with their god.
Well, except Adrex.
Yeah.
He gets to take a
Adrex gets
shot.
shot at his god. Oh wait, we used that.
Yeah.
Adrex, you learned how to fly. The offer's still open. Join the winning team.
Red. As you're flying north, charting a course over to the Council of Akka, where there's nowhere safe to land, you guys are going to have to kind of pull up along a cliff edge and throw out a rope bridge and hope for the best.
Yep.
You want to set a course for the Fen of Fangs, and during the trip, Calcine calls you into her quarters one day.
Mm-hmm.
Just you alone to speak. And you see her out on the ship very rarely. She looks, whatever magics she's been using, most recently to bring the 5 of you back, this ritual, have taken a great deal out of her. You notice that a lot of the color and vibrance that used to be in her is no longer there. She tells you when you come in to see her that, well, first she asks you about the nature of this incense and this divination that you intend to do to speak to your red star. And wants...
I wasn't a member of the religious class, so I don't know how it works. All I know is the first time that I heard the Quaddle's voice, it was when I was doing mandated communing with our god. So, gonna steal some more of it, gonna try again.
She cautions you on this kind of divination. She says there was a time, many years ago now, when they first became aware that the 5 of you had gone north and weren't coming back. When they first met up with Student 9 and they first learned a little bit about the Staff of the Magi, she attempted to gain it. She attempted to locate it and find it.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that you all had it. And she knew from Thada that you had that you'd given it to Breniar. And she spent more than a month weaving this great magic ritual, this great divination that tapped their resources, strained them. And she tells you about how she sent a message to you that traveled through time, and that she wrote it on a great white canvas, and that it very nearly destroyed her to reach a pen back that far. And she also noted that it did not work. She was unable to stop you from giving the staff over to the golden hand that extended to take it.
Was that in the snow?
She doesn't know what you're talking about, but she's heard from Thada about that encounter, and she thinks that's how her message came across. She had a sensation of reaching across a very large distance onto a great white canvas, and hearing Thada's recollection of that event many years later when Thada was fully grown. She thinks that's what occurred.
Well, I don't think the incense is anything that powerful. It just lets you hear demons' voices in your head, which honestly always seems stupid to me, but...
She tells you that if you're confident that this might work and that contacting the Red Star will be of assistance to your quest, she will bend parts of her divination magic to that end.
The only thing I would ask is after I'm done, let me know if I was talking to the demon or the Kobold.
She nods. Red, are you trained in religion?
Nope.
Do you make any preparations to do this? Like, do you try to make contact with other Yuan-ti that are still scared or around? Or are you just going to fly in and wing it?
I just want to... No, I'm going to try and steal the stuff and make my way out. I'm going to try and make it like I was never there.
The area is overrun with orcs and kobolds. And no small amount of undead, either.
Mm-hmm.
Something about the marshlands are very conducive to raising great armies of undead. Although the rank and file here amount to little more than a rabble. They're great in numbers, but they're not very well organized, and there isn't much of a command structure, and just its proximity being only a couple days away from overland from where Griagro is stationed, you're thinking his influence prevents Mammon from getting a very strong foothold in the area.
Okay.
So getting down into what is now the abandoned Fen of Fangs, you do find evidence that the Yuan-ti slavers that were here, that you escaped from back in the day, have escaped down into the Underdark to resettle, away from Mammon's grasp. And you do manage to find, in one of the old broken temples, some of this incense that you seek.
And I'll go back onto the ship and do this in the room that she was using to revive us. Seems quiet enough.
And your understanding of this ritual is you just burn the incense and sit there and quiet?
Stuff comes to you, and maybe you can talk to it, maybe you can't. Red doesn't really understand.
Okay. Are you doing this immediately upon returning?
Yeah, unless there's anything else that's pressing.
All right.
Assuming Kelim's in shape to do that one divination.
Well, her job, you want her to know, to be able to tell you whether you were speaking to the Quetzal
if she needs
the
more
demon.
time to recover from bringing Windy back still, then we can wait, but...
Okay. What are the rest of you doing while Red goes below decks to do this ritual with this incense?
Keeping in
is it a
the
private
theme-
ritual?
Calcine is with him.
Wendy's always willing to watch new rituals.
Okay. What's Raazu doing?
Keeping with the theme of everybody apparently turning to the gods, Raazu has a proposal for Captain Eyes, and that is, before we join the battle, our forces must be rested and ready to go. I propose shore leaving the Kovnos if it's still around.
The Kovnos thrives. Very early on, after some of the rivers were just returning to gold, Captain Eyes, having witnessed the cataclysm at Vornot Keep, having witnessed the destructive power that was in play, and seeing the lakes and rivers of gold in the north, and realizing that what was about to happen, that gold was going to be devalued, worked with the people in the Kovnos to make sure that that devastation did not reach them. And what has ended up happening is the Kovnos sees a great deal of maritime trade with the Southwings now. It's still ruled by a similar council with all different names, of course. Captain Eyes still has great influence there. But yeah, it's still there. A lot of this surrounding lands have been tamed. Captain Eyes has been, as a side project, thinking about eradicating this Kraken, but has been kind of preoccupied. But that's pretty much the only finger that still dangles over the Kovnos. Is out there somewhere is a Kraken in the surrounding oceans.
Because the reason why Raazu proposes shore leave on the eve of battle is because she's always had it in her head that the activity of shore leave is a religious sacrament for Ostrom, and that's why she wants to do this thing.
It has nothing with you having played all of the Suikoden games.
No, not at all.
Okay.
That's a good idea, Underling. I support this idea.
Call me underling one more time, I'm beating you. I'm throwing you off the side of the ship, and I'm keel hauling you. I don't know how it's going to happen when we're flying through the sky, but it's going to happen.
And nearby, you hear Cyburn start clapping and hopping back and forth from foot to foot.
Birdie looks over at Adrex and says, "She's very surly for an Underling." And then Birdie runs away. He runs away like
Birdie.
a little girl.
Windy,
We've been in stasis for 64 years.
Yeah.
make a Constitution saving throw at advantage,
All right.
as this incense is highly poisonous.
Oh, well.
That's a 22.
Okay? And as soon as you realize that inhaling this incense is going to be detrimental, you manage to cobble together some kind of cloth mask to keep the worst of it away. And it's this very foul, very rank odor. And you begin to see things swimming around. Like hallucinations, things you realize can't possibly be there because you're not able to see. And you realize that if you're having this experience, you're starting to kind of lose focus on the room around you. What Red must be experiencing as he's sitting silently in the center of the room. Red.
Mm-hmm.
You find yourself in a sea of stars, this great black expanse. And looking in every direction, thousands and thousands of pinpoints of light. And below you, somewhere very, very far below you, maybe the size of a coin, you see the world. And you see the rough shape of continents. And you realize, oh, Captain I's nautical maps are all wrong. Like, we need to put some satellites in orbit up here, get some GPS tracking. And you hear... You don't hear anything because you're in the vacuum of space, but you feel a strange distortion that you start to associate with a sound of flapping wings. And looking behind you, looming overhead, is a shape, a hole in the universe through which you see a second expanse of stars, in the center of which is a bright white light. And this is the shape of a dragon. Mm-hmm. You can't tell if this dragon is tiny and floating in front of you, or if it's impossibly enormous and 1,000 miles away. All of the space around it is twisted and distorted, but the wings are flapping, and its head is lolling in your direction. And you hear a very soothing voice speaking your native Yuan-ti tongue, and it asks you, "It is terrifying, isn't it?"
I don't know if it's the void or the places where the void is wrong is more terrifying.
And the voice says, "Many terrifying things are happening." Then the voice asks if you've come here to slay this thing.
I can't quite see what it is. That's Red's response. It doesn't.
So it clarifies you have not come here to slay it. This
Is
thing...
the voice coming from the dragon?
No. It's difficult to say where it's coming from.
I've probably come here to slay it. Yeah. That makes the most sense.
It says that down on the world, down where the serpents scrabble through grass and muck, it is easy to see the villain is a man of gold, a man driven by great and endless greed, but greed nonetheless, a base emotion, manipulable. But from up here, if you look down at the world you're from, do you see any trace of this man? Do you see the devastation he's wrought?
Can I see the golden rivers from up here?
You can't. You can't. It's Carl Sagan's pale blue dot.
No.
But you can see the creature he created. His great mistake. When he sacrificed the Ice King to the void. And you see here the true threat. And this thing looming above you looks like it dwarfs the size of the world 100 times. You could get lost in it. It tells you that this thing is so great and so expansive that the span of its wings prevent the light of the red star from reaching the Yuan-ti. All of the tribes have lost their way.
Well, then I'll slay it.
And the voice implores you not to lose your way. Not to get so tied up in your scrabblings against this golden man that you don't lose sight of the true threat that stands poised to swallow the world.
Thank you for the guidance, again.
And the vision begins to fade from you. Wendy, in your hallucinations, you see the same kind of void creature, this twisting in space in front of you, but you see it more of a bird than a dragon. And after a few moments, Red rouses from his slumber and explains what he's seen.
Yeah, I think I got a view of it as well. More like a metaphor, I think.
So, I guess the castle self-destruct mechanism was a little bit more powerful than we thought.
It could just be a bad side effect.
Yeah. Could be something Mammon tried to use that he didn't actually have any idea about. Seems like the
Sounds
sort
like
of
us.
thing you do. Kelseem, do you have any idea who I was speaking to?
Well, the story as Calcine heard it regarding the Ice King was the Ice King and his armies were attacking Voronoct, and they escaped through the portal. The Necromancer stayed behind to trigger the portal, which he had been told would destroy the entire keep. And he thought he could destroy the Ice King at the same time.
Makes sense.
That's the pinpoint
that's
of...
exactly what we gave them. That's exactly what we told them, right?
Yep.
I mean, this is what we were told.
As far as who you were speaking to, she relates that in her time honing her craft as a diviner, she has spoken to demons before, and that she's not familiar with this demon with which you speak, but this entity didn't seem similar to those. And she apologizes if that's not a helpful response, but that's as much as she can do.
I think that's good enough for me. So, do you want to tell all the others, or should I, Wendy, that Mammon's not even the half of it?
I mean, we should probably tell everyone
Together.
together.
Yeah.
And after a
This is a
few
lot.
hours, the ocean opens up beneath you as you're traveling northeast towards the Council of Akka. When Wendy and Red give you the bad news.
This is a lot.
Wait, what do you mean it's not the half of it?
So, if Mammon is Birdie, then the void creature is Killbreath.
This is bad.
Well,
So I can't
Maybe-
imagine that the portal created it. It must have been something that got something outside of the universe that got. Does that even make sense? Can you be outside of the universe? I
So
don't know. Something I think got bound up with it that was beyond the control of anyone. That simply used the portal as a way in.
so
in the spirit of doing things that we don't understand the ramifications of, we could try to hit it with the cataclysm. Magic. Listen, it's been 64 years. I've had a hard time with the correspondence course.
As Wendy gives you this suggestion, like maybe we hit it with the cataclysm, Red, it starts to dawn on you that this creature could trigger the cataclysm. The coming of this creature is the cataclysm.
Okay.
So, was there any indication of what we could do to stop this creature?
None whatsoever.
Think back to what Mammon as Berniar and also the Arcanalon. Or wait, no, it was Berniar who told us this, that you can't stop the cataclysm. Like, the only thing we can do is shape it.
Yeah, but
So at that
Mammon
point,
wants the
it's-
cataclysm to happen so he can shape it. So,
And
Fuck.
the idea is we beat him to the punch.
right, screw that guy.
That's the plan. We beat him to that punch.
What's her name again?
And then we use the punch to punch the dark bird.
I keep wanting to call her Cassandra, and that's not her name.
Calcine. And at this,
Calcine.
by the time you guys are having a meeting, she's retired to rest. She's very low constitution these days with the kinds of divinations that she's been doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Very,
Yeah,
very difficult.
We shouldn't call on her for any other things like this.
Well, I had a thought.
Okay. I'm
We
excited to
returned
hear
to
it.
gold statues, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happened.
We were also not. We also encountered other people turned to gold on our adventure, right?
Yeah.
We did.
hmm
Would it be? If it's too taxing for her, then we probably shouldn't do it. But those people who return to gold might have some valuable information that we already don't have.
I mean, really, the only one that we would have easy access to would be that dwarf that we kind of tipped over.
In the stair, I don't know that you're gonna have easy access to anything on that plateau.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
said. Like that would be the easiest. The rest of them were in the literal heart of Mammon's power.
Well,
So-
we've got some good news, right? Where that horrible nega bird is outside of the universe, right? You were saying that?
It's in a void within another void, which in
Sure,
within
that sounds
which
real
planet?
complicated.
The world is a sphere, right?
I'll take that correspondence course next. So, theoretically, people outside of the universe could be affected by it too now. So that gives the Feywild a good excuse to help us.
I'm still
Right?
not sure how comfortable I am with the idea of an outside of the universe.
Well, I mean, it
no,
kind of
let's
defeats the purpose
try
of the
to-
word, doesn't it?
Let's try to call
Right,
the help.
At that point, it's just a biverse.
It's a verse.
It's just a verse.
Yeah, I like that. It's just a verse.
Red
We
doesn't
need all
like
the help we
onions.
can get. I mean,
No.
considering the scope of everything that has happened, yeah, no, let's try to go to the Feywild.
We're flying at maximum speed away from the Fey crossing.
Well, we can go there next. It's been
Let's climb it
64
this-
years, Fred.
Yeah, exactly.
That means in the Feywild it's been like 7,000 years. And they're
So
probably
maybe
still at the
there's
same
someone
dinner
better
party.
there now.
There is
They're
a-
probably they're probably holding the same party they were holding when we left.
They're probably worse.
there is a 0% chance the Feywild is better than when you left it. It doesn't get worse or better, it just becomes differently awful over time. Like laterally worse. Off in the distance, you begin to see like the barrier island between you and the Council of Akka. And Windy and Aarakocra generation is only like 20 years at best.
Yeah.
So
So I've skipped a few.
yeah, there's been
Yeah.
several generations of monks inside of the Council of Akka. The closest you guys can get, the winds around the mountain are great and terrible. So essentially the best you can do is to bring the ship into the ocean and then climb up the old-fashioned way. And there are times where climbing is not sufficient, where only flights will bring you up the mountain. But you've done this path before, and Adrex wasn't able to fly at that time. So now the going is actually a little easier. Coming up to the council, it's much as you remember it, just all different faces. You quickly learn that from their perspective, the monastery of the last breath was lost. There were no survivors when the Red Dragon was brought down in the area. Many generations have passed, and it's only been 60 years, but even that story has passed almost into myth and legend because they've experienced 3 full generations of turnover at that time. Windy, the Wind Dukes themselves, as far as anybody knows, when the rivers began turning to gold, when the great armies began sweeping through the lands, the Wind Dukes flew east across the oceans. The Council of Akka now kind of sees themselves as the last vestiges of their order in this old world. They're watching this world crumble away, and some new great civilization is going to rise somewhere far off to the east, where the Wind Dukes resettle and bring their teachings to new peoples. They're kind of standing vigil over what they see as the last days of the world. This is some real hardcore Middle-earth shit right here.
Okay, well that's bogus, though. What have you guys been doing for 60 years?
There have been a lot of battles for this island. Mammon is weak in the air, except for the dragons that he controls, none of which he has sent this far over. They share with you some techniques that they have for fighting dragons. This isn't the first time your people have had to come into conflict with them. The barrier island provides them quite a lot of defense from both air and sea, but they've had lots of skirmishes with flying undead, controlled by Mammon, metal men that have been affixed to wings that have been set upon them, and waves upon waves of white Urds. So they are no slouches when it comes to the arts of war, but they've been holding this mountain. Their teachings now say that if they lose this mountain to the enemy, that the last protections, like the last tower in the west falls, and the civilizations, the new places in the east, will be in danger. So they're tasked with holding down this fort.
Metal wings? The deceit flies, but it's made of wood.
They show you some of the dead, well, inert, I guess is a better word, metal creatures that they've killed and brought back. The wings themselves aren't metal. They're made of canvas and leather and lashed with just hollow metal tubes, kind of like a very thin skeleton. And they show you this is why they're very easy to bring down. These creatures were not made naturally by the world. They do not have the breath of life from the Winduke. Their wings are flawed, and so they're unable to stand against the monks of the council here.
Birdie
But
is...
surely you can see this is a losing battle. I mean, if they take over the entirety of the rest of the world, you're not going to be able to hold up on this mountain any longer.
They don't see it that way because they see the Windukes as taking their wisdom east. All of their teachings and all of their ways of life. And the new generations of Aarakocra are already starting to spring up into existence over there.
What?
But we're still over here. Like, that's all well and good, but you have to fight for what is in front of us. These children today, I swear to this generation.
Talking to the Birdman millennials is... And every 10 seconds they look down at their goddamn cell phones and you're like, come on!
Boy, I wonder if that orc woman who made things out of the dead metal men has any descendants or anyone who learned her methods.
So, Wendy, you find this defeatist attitude hold up here, but you don't find an unwillingness to fight. If you bring them the story of this horrible void creature, and if you bring them evidence that Mammon can be fought, they would take the fight to the field, even though they see it as a losing proposition, but they see it as though they're destined to lose this fight. In the losing of it, they fulfill this, what is now mythic prophecy, passed down from their forebears generations ago. So the question becomes, what would you have them do?
Well, so as of right now, we're still putting our forces together, so I don't want to set them on any one particular path. What are we currently thinking, guys? What's our...
Well, the resources they have at play here is they have the Great Plume that you managed to save. They actually also know of you. You're this now mythical blind monk who came to the monastery generations and generations ago and did this heroic task. And they have stories of your companions as well. The perching prowess of the White Dragonborn is well known amongst their... The resources they have is...
Best 20 I've ever rolled.
The Metal Man's wings that they're able to salvage and scavenge aren't completely inert. Whatever spark of life the Metal Men have, they have techniques to transfer just into these wings. The reason this is useful for them is an Aarakocra that is injured in flight, whose wing becomes useless. They have found ways to essentially give them a prosthetic wing. They can't build these, but they have a small number of them.
And you find Wendy staring at it and then staring over at Raazu with one hand on her beak.
The monks here are also they're warrior monks, so they essentially have all the same benefits you do. They are excellent archers, they're excellent air-to-air combatants, and they're willing to fight and die for a lost cause.
Fantastic. They sound like my kind of people.
And they
How
look
many
at their
silver
cell phones.
weapons do they have?
None.
Yeah, does the world at whole know about the silvered weapon thing?
No, the world at whole, once gold became incredibly common and everybody could get as much of it as they wanted, silver kind of de facto became the next most useful currency. And over the past 50 or so years, Mammon has started taking up all the Southling silver mines, depleting dragon hordes and things in the north, and consolidating as much silver as he could. So it's very rare, but it's not unheard of, and Captain Eyes has a hold full of it. All the silver you guys left in Vorgnok's Keep, he has aboard the Deceit.
The thing is, I think
No.
you can only use each sword once, right, Adrex?
Yeah.
If we
Well, that was a
want a
s-
distraction somewhere that we can be 100% certain we can get his attention on, a group attacking that silver stockpile, that would probably be good enough to get him looking over there if we wanted to go in and then take him out while he's controlling that dragon.
So the
Yes.
idea is to attack the silver stockpile to draw the dragon, and then since he'll have to concentrate on the dragon, we'll be able to sneak into the... Is he still operating out of the same place that we were in?
Well,
I would
unless he's
imagine
moved
I don't
that
think
dragon
he
statue.
can,
He can't move the Golden Spire, right?
As
Right.
far as you know, that's the case. Last that anybody had intelligence in the area, which would probably have been Student 9, yes, that is the case. That is
Okay.
still his base of operations.
All right.
So
That's like the opposite side of the world, though. That's a lot of coordination.
Well, it's a good thing that we have people willing to fight for a lost cause here.
it is worth noting that my silvered weapons were just coated, and when I stabbed Mammon with one, the coating evaporated. So who knows what actual silver weapons do?
Like
Do you still
gold
have that
made of
dagger?
Silver?
Probably nothing good.
No, I don't.
You have the hilt of the dagger. The actual silver of it is gone.
Just the hilt.
As far as I know, right now, the only person amongst you has silver. Raazu took 1 silver coin from Kilbeard's.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But you do have a cache of silver aboard the Deceit, and there is skill to coat whatever weapons you want with it, essentially.
I think we should. Arrows would probably be the easiest. You think?
I think we should coat as pretty much whatever we can with it. But I also think we should just, if they have enough of it, make a solid spike of it.
Yeah.
It'll be terrible as a weapon, but as a finishing maneuver.
Just a giant lance. Have
Just
Raazu
shove it
run
in. Just shove it in his chest. Yes, I like that idea.
Why don't we just put it on the prow of the airship and bring it up to full speed? It's
Yeah,
faster than a dragon, right?
Because he's
Except
inside,
that-
right?
He's in,
Captain Eyes might object to crashing his beloved ship.
Are
into
you
something.
suggesting we Little Mermaid the big bad?
I think it's a great idea that something rams into the dragon. I just don't know that silver will necessarily have the same effect on the dragon.
Mermaid
Right.
Yeah.
is- We all know this is a Cthulhu thing.
Listen, we've already
Sorry,
experienced
this is
like
totally distracting.
So, Wendy,
Yeah.
what is your thought about these prosthetic wings that they have?
I mean, I think Wendy's perspective, as per always, is that anybody who can take the opportunity to train with these things and give them a shot should.
They have never attempted to try their techniques on a creature that's not an Aarakocra. It's purely been a rehabilitative technique to
It's
replace
first time for everything.
damaged wood.
Birdie, your mom always wanted a Erd, didn't she?
yes, but my mother's dead and I hated her, so there's that.
So this is one up on her, right? You got it only after she's dead and can't.
Can't
Red
tell
will
you no.
volunteer in that case to experiment with the prosthetic wings.
Okay.
And Adrex will gladly teach anyone who was using prosthetic wings.
Red, you were given no assurances that this will work because they've never. I mean, your bones are much denser than theirs, for one thing.
Right.
It's going
I
to
can roll
involve.
up a fall from pretty good height.
It's going to first of all involve weird ritualistic explorative surgery, and it's going to involve a very long period of convalescence afterwards.
How very long are we talking here?
Probably a month or two.
Is it going to be Will the wings collapse in such a way that I can still hide when I'm not flying?
It'll probably be. They're a little smaller than Windy's, and they're not covered in feathers. You could probably coat them with whatever coloration you want, and you should be able to fold them up over a cloak, but they will add to your bulk somewhat. Like these will not be detachable once they're on.
Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea.
Birdie's like, everybody I know who can fly is terrible.
Let's try it.
No. Windy's the best.
So Birdie says no. Red says yes. What does Raazu say? Raazu, having witnessed this firsthand, it's not possible for any kind of physical flight and wearing heavy armor. These are mutually exclusive things.
I'm not doing it.
Raazu
See
did that once.
Exhibit A, Adrex.
So are
Actually,
you guys...
Can we get Adrex a better suit of medium armor? Are you still wearing like a hand-me-down?
I'm
We-
still wearing the hand-me-down, yeah.
We really need to get you some half plate. Like,
Adrex, you can go ahead and acquire whatever non-magical medium armor you think you want. I mean, you have
Okay.
these resources.
Let me get the PHP real
Silver
quick.
it. Silver that.
As you travel south, as you get closer and closer to the now destroyed wall, there's more and more settlements through which Southling values are moving and merging north. In some ways, this area of the south here is kind of the ideal of what you guys have been fighting for the whole time. This idea of merging civilizations together that generally get along for everybody's mutual benefit. It's just not exactly how you thought it was going to happen.
sometimes, you gotta eggs, omelets.
No
Yeah.
plan survives first contact with the demon.
Are you guys going to stay here in the mountains as Red goes through this process, or are you going to go off and do other work while he convalesces?
I think we should go off and do other work because we can't be sitting idle.
I think, like, who do we have left to speak to? I think the Fae and Griagro.
I think also our third avenue of inquiry beyond just like asking people for help is we should try to figure out what exactly it was that stymied him for that 60 some odd years. Because whatever it is something pretty effective against him. And I did it by accident.
I think it should be somewhat obvious, right, Wendy? I don't think he can destroy a statue he creates, or he can't warp it in any way.
Power of spite.
From what none of us were harmed the whole time we were there, but I think there might be something intrinsic about the nature of Mammon that if he turns someone into a statue, he can't do anything further against them. Because how else would he not just... I mean, gold's soft. How did he not just rip your wings off?
Is there anyone else he's turned into gold?
All of us.
Anyone
All of
else?
us. And
That
there's-
dwarf, everyone in the Golden Spire, did we ever run into a random person made of gold anywhere else?
There was the
Yeah,
dwarf.
it was-
There was in the where was the dwarf at?
in the Spire.
In the Inspire, yeah.
Or the Stair, not the Spire. The Stair.
And then there was a winged woman in the
In the
stair as well.
Underdark, right?
No,
Didn't
And
we-
also
that was
in
in
the stair.
That was in the stair.
Those were both.
There
in
was
the stair.
there was somebody
Wasn't there someone in
in
the Underdark.
yes,
Like,
there
we were in
was
the-
there was
when we first found Griagro.
yes there
Oh,
was
man,
there was
that's
a there was somebody who was turned completely to gold. I remember because actually I was actually listening to that session a few days ago.
Did any of them
this
have
is-
any weapons?
Like,
Not that would be of any use to us anymore.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, the
There's
only
some way,
yeah.
if he can't do anything against things that he has turned to gold, maybe we can bring them to a high enough place, drop them on him.
Wrap them around the airship as armor.
Drop them around the
Right.
airship as armor.
All right. Hold on there, Bugs Bunny. Are you suggesting we go and get some of these people and like depetrify them?
That was Adrex's idea, but if it takes too much out of
Out of Calcine.
out of Calcine, I don't know if it's worth it because we don't know these people and we don't know what kind of information they can give us, if any. That's
Okay.
why I was wondering, like, if this is really depleting her life energy, I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah, I don't think we should.
Is this a thing that she is required to do? Can either Adrex or I do this ritual to cure the petrification?
No, you guys are good at magic, but you're not. I've been practicing for 50 years to become an expert diviner kind of magician.
Birdie's been practicing for 64 years.
With a little lapse in the middle.
Petrification magics.
See here, there's a large gap on your resume.
So the gold statues you found in the Drow fortress, there was a statue of a golden elf, and then one of the Wemmick, one of the Southlings, reaching for it. But both of these statues had been considerably damaged because there was a goblin there who was chipping them off
Their
into
flesh off.
chunks.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds horrible. So let's not.
I think that is. I don't think that's related necessarily to Mammon. It might be, but I don't think it's related in the sense that it'll be immediately useful. I think that sounds to me more like a trap for people coming in to loot the place.
So
as
what are you
evidenced by the poor Wemmick.
what are you guys doing for, let's say, the month or so that it takes for Red to have this invasive mutilation done to him
It's
and then
awesome.
recover physically? How are you guys spending those few weeks? Are we going to try to travel into the Feywild?
What do we want to get from the Feywild? Do we just want to enlist their help as more people to throw against Mammon?
I know a dragon slayer who really likes slaying dragon.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
and there are at least 3 dragons.
Is he still alive?
That's
It's been
his-
64 years.
How do you
That
guys
is
get?
the-
How do you try to get to the Feywild?
Where did we met? What's his name here? Didn't we? Didn't got the Feymore.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, that's right.
Is this still? Is there still something present there? There was some kind of crossing there, wasn't
There
there?
was, but this was once a very dense sylvan wood, and now it's at best a wasteland with a few sickly copses of trees here and there.
This is how we got in last time.
Yeah. It's probably broken the connection by now.
The Moakton village no longer stands, and the White Mother's spring has turned to gold.
Also, we kind of made the White Mother very angry. We probably don't want to deal with her. We want to deal with the other one.
Also, this whole area is kind of patrolled by Guerrero's orcs and outriders now. He's had 64 years to consolidate his power and control in the area. Congratulations, you guys installed an evil mind flayer.
Yeah,
he's-
he's an evil mind flayer, but we still talk with him.
That's an adventure for some other group of adventurers, though. That's someone
for
else.
someone else.
I can't imagine we'd have another group of adventurers that have anything to do with mind flayers.
All right.
Windy, as always, prefers feeling foolish for having done something than feeling foolish for having not done something. So she sneaks over to Adrex's pack while they're all doing something and just takes out the eyeballs, just like brings them real close where we can say, "Hey, listen, we need to talk. If you got any kind of connection with these still, there's something coming." And just she describes the like dark void dragon, and then puts it back in the pack and never speaks of it to the others.
Okay.
Oh boy.
All right. Red.
Mhm.
Add a 20-foot fly speed to your movement.
Okay.
And they weren't kidding. These wings are, I mean, they will flatten against your back, but I mean, they do so in the sense that Adrex's do. They're impossible to hide. You can tuck them under a cloak, but the bulk of them is always going to be there. The good news is they're not organic, so they can be attacked and hit, and though you may lose the ability to fly if they're damaged, they're not going to actually damage you.
They're not irreparable.
And learning how to flex them and use them is very strange and difficult because it feels like you have extra appendages, like extra arms coming off your shoulders. And at first it's difficult to tell if you're moving one of these wings or moving one of these arms.
Adrex has been through that rehab.
You guys try a couple things to make contact with the Feywild, but as far as you can tell, the connection of the Fey crossings you had used in the past have been severed. And this in itself presents a problem, because those connections had a kind of preserving effect on the lands around them. As tricky and vindictive as the Fey creatures could be, the world is poorer and less vivid without their influence.
So, I guess this all happened. This is why the Fae were in conflict with Mammon's forces, is because they were trying to sever those connections.
It would seem so.
We'll go ahead and take a break there. You guys arrive back at the monastery to pick up Red. Wendy and Adrex run him through flying drills.
Hey, Red, you're now a Quaddle. You're a winged serpent.
Red, you have no penalties or drawbacks to your stealth, but it's not possible to move silently with wings. The flapping
So I
of
can't fly silently, yeah, obviously.
You could gain a particular height, and if you know where you're going, you might be able to glide silently.
Okay.
But
Could I fall silently and then open the wings at the last second to break to, not die?
possibly, but
Okay.
moving the wings is going to make some sound as they catch the air. And if you
Okay.
don't open them fast enough, the sound where you hit the ground is going to be very loud.
And if you mention that idea too loudly to Wendy, she's going to go out and do it.
I mean, there is a notable sound when the canvas of your wing catches air. But it's less noticeable than if you were to flap, flap, flap constantly to a place.
You know what? I like that idea, Birdie. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the outside of the wings is like the same color of my cloak. But yeah, let's paint rainbows across a rainbow color across the inside, so it's only noticeable when they're opened.
On that note, let's go ahead and take our break here.